for the last 3.5 years. I took one of these right here and dropped it into the stock market every single day the stock market was open. And now after 3.5 years, from January 1st, 2022 until present day, let's see if I've made money or completely wasted $5 a day. Now, there's a lot of things we can waste $5 a day on, right? We can go and buy a Starbucks cup of coffee every day. We can go and buy a beer every day. We can go and do other random things with $5 a day. And what's interesting is, what does that equal? If we map that up, $5 a day times, well over 1,200 days, maybe 300 days. That's a lot of money, but what happens when you put it into an investment? Does it grow or does it not? This is the ultimate test of seeing if the stock market investment every single day with dollar cost averaging pays off or not. So let's get right down to the video today. I'm going to give you my update all the way 3.5 years. We'll see how the portfolio is looking. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you my live portfolio so you can see what it looks like today as of the recording of this video on July 7th, 2025. Let's get down to it right over here on the screen. I have my little tracking sheet. I like, I'm an Excel nerd, right? I like to track things and see how things are going. And what this entails is this is looking at all the way back from January until present, split up by month. And it shows how many shares I bought from my $5 a day, my total invested, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to break this down. Now, one important thing is that I use a difference of either Webull or Robinhood. They're both brokerage apps that you can download. You can get free stocks. I'll include the link in the description. You know the drill. If you want to support the channel, you can check those out. But more importantly is the fact that these are commission-free trades. There are international people, and I'm so sorry. If you live internationally and Robinhood and Webull are butt heads and they don't have availability in your country, I am so sorry, because the issue is that, you're going to be charged with a commission fee, and $5 a day will probably not be worth it because you're going to have to pay a fee to invest every single day. Not worth it. But for those of us that have availability of using either one of these platforms, you can invest $5 a day and take real advantage of dollar cost averaging by the day. So here's where we start out with the $5 because it's easy. Where in the world can you find $5 a day in your budget? There's got to be a way. Are you spending some money that you can cut out of something? There was somebody that left a comment on my channel, by the way, and they said that $1 a day would break them. And I kind of feel sorry for this person because $1 a day, if you cannot find $1 a day in your budget, you either need to find a different job and make more money, you got to get a second job, or you got to find a way, you're cut the Netflix or something. You got to do something to turn that course around. Otherwise, 10, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to be broke AF. And I don't want that for you. I want you to be wealthy and successful. So the reason I started this is because I thought $5 a day, easy, drop the Starbucks. And instead of buying Starbucks every day, I'm going to invest it and see what happens. So in January 2022, you can see I purchased a total of 0.37 shares or $155 for that particular month. The average cost back then was $419 for my selected stock market fund, and that is VOO. It's Vanguard's S&P 500. If you're not sure what the heck that means the top 500 companies in America are what make up this exchange-traded fund. So I don't have to go out and think about, do I invest in Apple? Do I invest in Tesla? Do I invest in Microsoft? No, I invest in all of them through an exchange-traded fund. That's the beauty of this. And we all know that the stock market, that S&P 500 has averaged 10% return per year, which is pretty darn sweet. So if we look here, we got the average cost back then at $412. It's looking much better today, so that's great. One thing I want to point your attention to, especially if you've been with me since the beginning, if you have, make yourself known in the comments by dropping a comment down below, because I'd like to hear from you. Have you been with me since January 2022 or January 2023 when I first did the video exposing the $5 a day challenge? I would love to say hi to you, but more importantly, you'll remember that back then things weren't looking so good. Look at this. I have a growth and loss on this particular year. 2022 was not a good year in the stock market. In fact, looking back, this was a great year to start a $5 a day investment challenge because the market just kept going down. The beauty of that from a long-term perspective is if you can capture shares of an ETF, shares of a stock early on when things are down, when it's having a bad year, you have more of a chance of seeing a bigger upturn in the future versus buying on the high and then all you see is it going down. Instead, we're buying on the down and getting to enjoy the ride up in a much quicker fashion. So if I would have done a video, let's say in December of 2022, I would have had a total of 4.97 shares. My total cost, these are all my little $5 a day, equaled $1,863, but I lost $113. So my value is only $1,749. You would have been like, you lost 6% in the stock market doing this $5 a day investment challenge. You are stupid. I'm clicking off. I'm unsubscribing. I'm deleting this stupid guy on the internet, right? And I guess I wouldn't blame you if you had a short-term mindset. See, we got to have a long-term mindset to say, it's going to be a little bit better. We're going to keep on keeping on. We're going to stay consistent with the plan. Because at the end of the day, if you haven't been with me for the last 3 years, my question to you is this, and just think about this. Have you been spending $5 a day on other things, and have you not been investing at all? And if you haven't been, one way or the other, the money's gone. So would you rather have the money saved up and then growing with investments? Or would you rather have it, I don't know, wherever it went? Maybe it went to Starbucks or a beer or something like that. No. We need to build our wealth so we can be ultra successful, so we can live the life of doing whatever we want to do and have the power to do whatever we want to do. So let's take a look now. As I scroll down, I'm going to go down to the latest data that I have on a monthly basis, which is June of 2025. Things look a lot different than it did back here with the negative 6.11%. Here we are in June. I purchased a total of 0.26 shares at a total of $146 at an average price of now $553, and the last day price was $566. Big upgrade from back in the day in January of 2022. But look at this. All my $5 a day has racked up to 15.05 shares of VOO. 15 shares I now own by simply just doing this and forgetting about it. And that results now in a total of $6,469. That's the base amount of money. That is if you took $5 and put it under a mattress and kept saving it every day that the stock market's open. Now, what you have is you've earned up $6,469. So those people that have used that money for Starbucks and what I said earlier, well, that's $6,000, poof, gone in the last 3.5 years. But for those of us who invested it, now what we're seeing is a 31.84% gain on that money, giving us a total of $8,528.27. That is a gain of $2,000. So if I would sell everything and stop the $5 a day investment challenge right now, I would have $8,500 to do whatever I want with. And that's a down payment on a car. That's a college starter fund. I don't know. It's whatever you want it to be. A lot of people ask me, what am I going to do with this money? Well, I'm going to keep this thing going as long as I possibly can. It could be 20 years from now, and I'm going to come back as a slightly older guy and talk about how much money I have. Won't it be kind of interesting? Because then I can decide, am I going to take a cruise with this, live a retired life, do something? I don't know. The point is, we're going to see how this goes over the many years ahead. But before I show you my portfolio live as of today, July 7th, I want to talk about the importance of not just sticking with $5 a day. A lot of people miss the point. The point of this investment challenge is to just get bloody started. You got to get started with investing, because if you don't, what's your plan? And some people like to joke it off and brush it off like, oh, I guess I'll just work until I'm dead. Do you really want to be doing that? Don't you want to have the power to be able to be like, you know what, if my job starts bugging me, if my boss starts bugging me, or something weird and tragic happens in my life, I want to have the power and the ability to shift course anytime I want. And if you have a sizable nest egg, it doesn't matter if you're 65 years old, it doesn't matter if you're 40 years old. If you have the right amount of money in your account that's growing at an average rate of 10% per year, you can do whatever the heck you want to do. You can just decide, like, you know what, this isn't working out. I'm going to take a break for a couple of months. I can afford it, and do whatever I want to do and figure out my next step. That's powerful versus having to be desperate for a job and I hope everything works out and I got this big car payment. That's stressful. Nobody wants that. But if you only start with $5 a day, right? Eventually you want to upgrade it. So the first step from nothing is $5. Something easy, something to say, okay, I got something moving, I got some momentum. But eventually you want to say to yourself, now what? All right, I got more money coming in now. I got a bigger job. I got bigger income. I got some side hustles going on, whatever it is. Now I can afford doing maybe $100 a month or $1,000 a month. Or you're a big time baller and you're doing $5,000 a month. The point is, you got to continue to up your game, especially if you're older. Now, if you're in your 20s, man, you have a really good chance of seeing some pretty good success over the many, many years and months ahead. But if you're 40 or 50, That's okay. Nothing to freak out about. The only thing to freak out about is you got to get your income up or your debt down to have enough cash to put a little bit more into the investment market every month. So that way, when you reach an older age or reach an age that you just decide you want to do something for yourself, you have enough money to do so. If you think it would be wise and helpful for me to put some videos out about that particular topic, comment down below. Let me know. If I see enough interest, I will definitely come back with a video about that. So let's get down to the bread and butter here, which is going to be my live portfolio, not the month by month that I just showed you a moment ago. So here we are, my investment account. I'm going to click on VOO. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that I also did cryptocurrency. The reason I did that is because I just wanted to be a little bit of a rebel. My primary excitement is really the S&P 500, which is what you see right now, live right now. VOO is going for $570 a share. Hey, what was it back in January 22 when I started again? It was $412. Oh, that's pretty sweet. So you can see there's my reoccurring buy. It's pending, which means it hasn't really gone through yet, but usually they'll do that sometime in the afternoon. I don't have a particular time I do it. I just say, hey, buy the bloody thing once a day. I don't really care what time you do it. Anyway, so here's the latest and greatest, right? My position is showing 15.32 shares, total shares of VOO at a market value now of $8,747. Hey, that's a little bit of an upgrade from the end of June. That's $200 more in the month of June. That's pretty good. Actually, it's only been a couple of days since the last day of June. So, hey, pretty sweet. Average cost is $429. Now that means that every time I put in my money, it's averaging what I'm actually spending on the particular fund. Scrolling back up here, you see it says $570. Well, because I was investing, especially during 2022 when the market was down, it's averaging all of those $5 a day to give me right down here my average cost of VOO. So as long as the fund is above $429, I am in a profitable state. So today's return, whatever. I don't really care about the short term. I care about the total. Total return, $2,164. That represents a 32.88%. Hey, let's do some math. 32, okay, I've been doing it for 3 years. That's roughly 10% return average a year, just like the stock market has done over the last 100 years. There's gonna be years that it doesn't do that, but it averages out to 10% per year, and it's doing that. It's exactly doing that. One thing I want to point out, because you might see it on the screen and might be wondering if I'm running some type of scam. It says daily buy of $7.30. I thought I was doing $5 a day. You're right to wonder that. But if you're new here, I got to explain this really quick. $7.30 is because the stock market is not actually open every single day. But I want to simulate like I'm putting in $5 every single day the stock market's open. I don't want to jip that. If I only do $5 every day the market's open and not $5 every single day of the year, then that would make sense just to put it at $5. But you got to do a little bit of math. You have to look at how many stock trading days are there in the particular year that you're doing this challenge. Then you take $5 times 365 days in a year, or if it's a leap year, 366, and then you divide it by the total trading days in the year. That will give you how much you should set up your reoccurring buy for $7.30. So, got some videos on how to actually set this all up. I'll link them in the description below in case you're new to this and you want to see how to actually do this on a platform like Robinhood or like Webull. So I don't know about you, but I love this. I hope it's an inspiration to those of you who are just starting off. And remember, think about how you're going to scale it up in the future. Let's talk about crypto just because it's funny. Only because, man, what a wild ride. Sometimes I can be up like 1,000%, 100%, and then sometimes I can be like negative. Crypto is insane. You just gotta, if you're gonna do this, just be ready for the most intense roller coaster of your life. So here we are at a going price of about $2,500 as of the recording of this video. I did Ethereum and not Bitcoin back in January 2022 because I wanted to be a rebel. Everybody talks about Bitcoin. I decided to do the number 2, which is Ethereum. Judge me if you want. Who cares? I don't care. All right. So if we go down here, here's what we're looking at. My total position is I own 3.04 tokens of Ethereum. 3. That's kind of cool. When I first started this, I'm like, oh my gosh, Ethereum is going for $2,000 or $1,000 or whatever it was at the time. Oh, that's going to be a lot of money just to own one. And now, just $5 a day, 3 years later, I got 3. That's one token a year. And if it keeps this kind of price momentum up, I guess every year I'll have a new token. So my value for this one is 7,751. So if I cash this out, I'll have 7,000 bucks to do whatever I want to do with. But again, we're going to keep it going. My average cost is $2,060 because back in the day, it was not going for $2,500. It was going for like $1,800 if I remember right. So today's return we don't care about because we don't focus on the short term. We look at the total return, which is $1,472. That's only 23.45%. It's underperforming the S&P 500. So there are days and there are times and there are months that this thing outperforms the S&P 500. Like I said, it's a roller coaster. I mean, there are times I'm like, man, my Ethereum is looking like a beast. I mean, thousands of percent up. And then there are times that it's down. So whatever, who cares? The total is roughly about like 14 or 15,000 if I cash out my entire $5 a day ordeal. But right now, we're not worried about that. We're worried about building a successful financial foundation so that we can live the perfect life. Now, what do you want to see next? Comment down below and share me your story of your next steps to your perfect life. And oh, by the way, you got to make sure you check out this video next, and we'll see you on the next video.